Book Summary: The Monk Who Sold His Ferrari. Author, Robin Sharma. Chapter 1, The Wake-Up Call. Julian Mantle, a brilliant American lawyer, reached the pinnacle of his career with resounding legal victories. He owned a luxurious mansion, a striking red Ferrari, and often wore expensive Italian suits, but his life was filled with pressure. Working 18 hours a day, Julian sacrificed his health, happiness, and relationships. His marriage collapsed, he lost contact with his father, and his once radiant smile was replaced by a weary demeanor. At 53, he looked like an 80-year-old, his body overweight due to an unhealthy lifestyle. Once passionate about the law for its potential to change society, he was now obsessed with fame and wealth. One day in courtroom 7, where he had won the mother of all murder trials, Julian suddenly collapsed from a heart attack. He crumpled to the floor, trembling and sweating, shocking everyone around him. His assistant screamed, the judge urgently called for help, and paramedics quickly performed CPR. John, Julian's close friend and colleague, stood frozen, unable to believe his once idolized friend was now so frail. This event marked a major turning point, opening a new journey for Julian and prompting John to question his own life. Chapter 2, The Mysterious Visitor. 3 years passed since Julian Mantle's collapse in the courtroom, leaving a profound shock at the law firm. An emergency meeting was held, and Mr. Harding, the firm's manager, announced that Julian had survived his heart attack but chose to abandon his legal career. He did not return to the firm and even cut off contact with everyone, including John, his close friend who had stood by him for years. John felt hurt when Julian didn't personally say goodbye, even refusing to meet him at the hospital, always claiming to be asleep whenever John visited. Rumors spread that Julian had sold all his possessions, from his mansion, private jet, personal island, to his Ferrari, and set off for India to search for the meaning of life. During this time, John also changed. From a passionate young lawyer, he became weary and skeptical about life. He married Jenny, had children, and began seeking his own purpose, spending more time at home. One evening, after a stressful workday, as John prepared to leave the office, Genevieve, his assistant, informed him that a visitor insisted on meeting him. Though initially inclined to refuse, John agreed to meet. The door opened, and a tall, vibrant man walked in, exuding vitality, with sharp blue eyes and a radiant smile. John was stunned to recognize Julian Mantle, but now entirely transformed, youthful, healthy, and radiating peace. Julian had returned to share the story of his journey, opening a new chapter full of surprises. Chapter 3, The Miraculous Transformation of Julian Mantle. Julian Mantle began telling John about his life-changing journey after the heart attack. He admitted that the competitive legal world had drained him physically, mentally, and spiritually. The relentless pressure and grueling schedule of a top lawyer had broken him, leading to the heart attack, a symptom of a deeper issue. When his doctor issued an ultimatum, quit law or lose his life, Julian saw an opportunity to rekindle the inner fire he had lost in his youth. He decided to sell all his possessions and travel to India, a land that always captivated him with its ancient culture and mystical traditions. In India, Julian wandered through small villages, immersing himself in simple living. He met warm-hearted people who opened their homes and hearts to a weary Westerner. Days of wandering, sometimes walking, sometimes by train, helped him feel alive again. He began to savor small joys, like gazing at stars in the night sky or basking in the radiant summer sun, things he never noticed while consumed by his legal career. This journey was not just a vacation but a journey of self-discovery. Julian resolved to uncover who he truly was and the meaning of his life before it was too late, marking a profound turning point in his existence. Chapter 4, The Magical Encounter with the Sages of Savannah. Continuing his journey in India, Julian sought ancient wisdom to improve his life. He met many renowned teachers, learning from deep conversations in ancient temples that preserved millennia-old knowledge. However, after 7 months, he still hadn't found complete answers. One day, in Kashmir, a mystical land at the foot of the Himalayas, Julian met Yogi Krishnan, a former lawyer who had left a hectic life in New Delhi to become a village temple caretaker. Krishnan shared that he found inner peace through a simple life and a mission to serve others. Julian confided in Krishnan about his past, a stellar career, obsession with work, and the spiritual crisis following his heart attack. Krishnan revealed the existence of the sages of Savannah, reclusive figures living in the Himalayas who possessed a system of knowledge to transform lives holistically. Though unsure of their exact location, Krishnan urged Julian to keep searching. The next morning, Julian set off, climbing the Himalayas alone without a guide or map, relying solely on intuition. After 7 grueling days with little food or water, he spotted a figure in a red robe on a narrow path. This person led Julian to a lush green valley where the village of Savannah nestled among snow-capped mountains and pine forests. There, Julian met the sages, who welcomed him warmly, opening the door to learning the secrets of an enlightened life. Chapter 5, A Spiritual Student of the Sages. In the hidden village of Savannah amidst the Himalayas, Julian Mantle was welcomed by the sages as a brother. He met Yogi Raman, the lead sage, who agreed to impart ancient wisdom on the condition that Julian share these teachings in the West to help others. Julian accepted the promise and began his learning journey. Yogi Raman shared a parable. In a lush garden filled with vibrant flowers, a towering red lighthouse stood proudly. Suddenly, a 9-foot-tall, 900-pound sumo wrestler, wearing only a pink cord, emerged from the lighthouse. He tripped over a gold stopwatch, fell, and passed out. Awakened by the scent of yellow roses, he sprang up with energy, discovering a diamond-paved path leading to eternal joy. Yogi Raman explained that the parable concealed 7 virtues of an enlightened life. The garden symbolized the mind, requiring careful nurturing. The lighthouse represented a clear life purpose. The sumo wrestler signified relentless self-improvement. The pink cord denoted self-discipline, the gold stopwatch reminded of time's value, the yellow roses encouraged altruism, and the diamond path urged living fully in the present. Julian began applying these principles, learning to master his mind and reshape his life. He felt profound changes, moving closer to the inner peace he had long craved. Chapter 6, The Wisdom of Personal Change. At Savannah, Julian Mantle continued learning under Yogi Raman's guidance. The sage elaborated on the parable's garden imagery, a symbol of the human mind. He likened the mind to a garden, neglected, it fills with weeds, negative thoughts, carefully tended, it blooms with peace and happiness. Julian was taught that to live an enlightened life, he must master his mind, purify his thoughts, and cultivate positivity. To train focus and inner control, Yogi Raman introduced the heart of the rose technique. Julian sat quietly, focusing on observing a rose's center, feeling its color, texture, and fragrance. Initially, random thoughts intruded, but over time, his mind grew calm and sharp. Yogi Raman also taught Julian opposition thinking. Whenever a negative thought arose, he should immediately replace it with a positive one. For example, if the mind said, "I'm not good enough," he corrected it to, "I'm improving every day." This technique helped Julian realize he had full control over his thoughts, and thus, could reshape his life. Through consistent practice, Julian not only controlled his thoughts but also felt serenity and mindfulness in every moment. He understood that the mind is the gateway to deep peace, and mastering it was the first step toward a fulfilling life. Chapter 7, The Most Extraordinary Garden. During his learning at Savannah, Julian Mantle received profound lessons from Yogi Raman. The sage explained the next meaning in the parable. The towering red lighthouse in the garden symbolized life's purpose. Yogi Raman stressed that a meaningful life begins with defining clear goals and pursuing them with focus. He taught Julian that enlightened individuals always have a clear purpose, never wasting time, and called this concept Dharma, the life mission each person must fulfill to achieve inner harmony. To help Julian apply this virtue, Yogi Raman introduced a 5-step method. First, Julian had to vividly visualize the desired outcome, imagining himself achieving his goal. Second, he created positive pressure by sharing his plans with others to motivate himself. Third, he set specific deadlines for his goals, creating urgency. Fourth, Yogi Raman shared the magic 21-day rule, explaining that a new behavior becomes a habit if practiced consistently for 21 days. Finally, he advised Julian to enjoy the process, not just focusing on the destination but cherishing each step. Julian began applying this method, visualizing his goals and making concrete plans. He felt a shift in his perspective, gradually finding clearer direction, moving closer to the peace and meaning he had long sought. Chapter 8, Kindling the Inner Fire. At Savannah, Julian Mantle continued learning from Yogi Raman. The sage explained the next parable element. The giant sumo wrestler represented the virtue of kaizen, a Japanese concept of relentless self-improvement. Yogi Raman taught that to live a vibrant life, Julian must constantly grow, unlocking his potential through physical, mental, and spiritual training. He introduced 10 rituals to achieve this state. The first, solitude, required daily quiet time to calm the mind. The second, physicality, encouraged caring for the body through exercise. The third, nourishment, advised eating fresh, preferably vegetarian, foods. The fourth, abundant knowledge, promoted continuous learning to enrich the mind. The fifth, personal reflection, required reviewing daily actions for improvement. The sixth, early awakening, suggested 6 hours of sleep and rising with the sun. The seventh, music, encouraged listening to uplift mood. The eighth, spoken word, guided creating positive affirmations. The ninth, character, emphasized living by principles. The 10th, simplicity, advised focusing on meaningful things. Julian began applying these rituals, feeling energy and creativity return, gradually unlocking his potential for a fuller life. Chapter 9, The Ancient Art of Self-Leadership. At Savannah, Julian Mantle continued learning from Yogi Raman. The sage explained the next parable element. The pink cord worn by the sumo wrestler symbolized self-discipline, the foundation of a successful and enlightened life. Yogi Raman emphasized that discipline is not innate but honed through daily challenges. He shared a special exercise the sages practiced to build willpower, observing silence for a day. Yogi Raman explained that not speaking enhances self-control, training the mind to focus on essentials rather than frivolous chatter. Julian began this exercise, choosing a day of complete silence. Initially, restraining himself was tough, but gradually, he discovered the power of stillness. Silence deepened his thinking, inner listening, and emotional control. He experienced an inner peace unlike anything from his most successful years. Through this lesson, Julian realized self-discipline wasn't about rigid rules but mastering oneself, paving the way to a balanced, meaningful life. Yogi Raman encouraged him to practice discipline in all aspects, from work to daily life, to achieve true freedom. Chapter 10, The Power of Discipline. At Savannah, Julian Mantle continued learning from Yogi Raman. The sage explained the next parable element. The gold stopwatch the sumo wrestler found symbolized the value of time, humanity's most precious asset. Yogi Raman stressed that mastering time is mastering life. He taught that the sages revered time, viewing it as a reminder of life's finitude, using an hourglass image to recall that each passing moment is irretrievable, thus living each day fully. To manage time effectively, Yogi Raman guided Julian to make clear plans. He advised spending 15 minutes each evening ascending nightly plans for the next day, and 1 hour every Sunday for the week. He also stressed the importance of refusing non-essential tasks, protecting time for key priorities. Another lesson was to live each day as if it were the last, helping Julian focus on what truly mattered instead of wasting time on trivialities. Julian began applying these principles, planning daily and learning to say no to unsuitable requests. He realized that better time management allowed him to dedicate energy to grand goals while finding peace and meaning in each moment. The lesson on time taught Julian that living fully isn't just about achieving success but cherishing what he has. Chapter 11, Your Most Precious Commodity. In his conversation with John, Julian Mantle continued sharing Savannah's lessons, focusing on time's value, the most precious asset. He explained that enlightened people prioritize meaningful activities. Julian introduced the 80-20 rule, emphasizing that 20% of activities yield 80% of results, like time spent on self-development, family relationships, and health. He advised John to eliminate unimportant tasks, like browsing magazines or handling junk mail, to focus on essentials. Julian also stressed protecting time from time thieves, people who interrupt work or personal life, like colleagues chatting when John needed focus. He suggested closing the office door when working, not answering every phone call, and learning to say no to safeguard time. Another lesson was the deathbed mentality, urging John to ask, "If today were my last, what would I do?" This approach helped John live each moment fully, prioritizing family and meaningful things. Julian added that simple acts, like short naps to maintain energy, also mastered time. John began applying these principles, realizing that time management not only boosted efficiency but also brought deeper peace and meaning to his life. Chapter 12, The Ultimate Purpose of Life. In his talk with John, Julian Mantle continued sharing Savannah's lessons, focusing on altruism. He recounted Yogi Raman's teaching. As a child, his father required him to share daily good deeds each night, or perform a kind act before bed. Julian explained that life's ultimate purpose is contributing to others, as life's quality depends on the quality of contribution, not wealth or personal achievements. He linked this to the parable, where yellow roses symbolized altruism. He advised John to practice daily kindness, like sincere compliments, helping friends, or showing family affection without reason. Julian emphasized shifting perspective from individual to collective, ready to contribute to a better world. He shared a story of an elderly woman mistreated by her son and daughter-in-law, but her granddaughter's innocent words made them realize their error and change, proving compassion's power. John began applying this lesson, feeling life enriched by focusing on helping others. Chapter 13, The Timeless Secret of Lifelong Happiness. The final lesson from Savannah's sages emphasized living in the present, symbolized by the diamond-paved path in the parable. Yogi Raman taught that true happiness comes not from the past or future but from fully living and appreciating each present moment. Julian shared with John the story of Peter and the magic thread. Peter, a boy, received a magical thread to fast-forward time. Initially seeming precious, it caused him to miss valuable experiences. As an old man, Peter regretted losing life's small moments. The story reminded that failing to live fully today means losing life itself. Julian encouraged John to practice daily gratitude, writing 3 things he felt thankful for. He stressed simple acts like playing with his kids, listening to his wife, or focusing on work as ways to live presently. Before parting, Julian left an empty cup on John's desk. When John questioned it, Julian explained with a Zen tale: a scholar sought a Zen master's teachings. The master poured tea until it overflowed, continuing despite the scholar's surprise. The master said, "Your cup is full, how can I pour more? Empty it first." The metaphor meant that to learn anew, the mind must release old prejudices, becoming humble and open like an empty cup. Julian's parting message was, happiness comes from pausing, feeling, and maintaining a lifelong student's mindset.